Yeah. I sat through the whole discussion surrounding Sekiro and its apparently unfair difficulty without saying a word. But why would you do that? You've missed out on the views. Yeah, well, I don't really approach my channel in that way. I only make videos about things that I find exciting at the time. For example, I was playing a bunch of pirate games recently, so I chose to make a video about my top 5 favorite pirate games. A bunch of journalists and gamers freaking out over a challenging game didn't bother me so much, considering that this game was made by a developer well known for making games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. I just found it very stupid, you know. I wanted nothing to do with this idiocy. This hopeless argument only appears whenever a new From Software game comes out, and dies after a week. But then I caught up on some videos by Quality Games Content. Wait, is that the one? Hang on. Yeah, that's the one. I said that, well, if they don't like hard games, what are they doing playing Sekiro? And that's when I realised that I have a lot of frustration stashed up around this topic. So, my name is Dan, and these are my 5 pennies on the issue of difficulty, challenge, and accessibility in video games. The first question I want to ask is, why video games? Why not horror films that are too scary or horrid for some viewers? Why not rom-coms that might be too cringy or dumb for some other viewers? Why not a cuisine that might be too spicy for some eaters and their anuses? What is the fascination with video games that makes its industry so fixated with bickering for difficulty to be a flaw? Why can't the gaming industry have its own Conjuring or MS Sulkovich or Vindaloo? Let me approach this issue with psychology, bitch. During my degree, I researched people's links to entertainment, and I found that it's all about people's involvement with the product. Playing a video game is very different to watching a film. The user of a film is merely taking on the role of the audience, without any power to change the story or narrative. In video games, the user takes on an active role, where he or she fits a narrative component of the plot. I remember the late Total Biscuit saying something like this, and this is not a direct quote, because my memory is not that good. A video game is an unfinished work of art until a player plays it. What he meant to say in his video was, what makes a video game art is the fact that players interact with the game. Thus, they add their own self and actions to the plot. This is what fits a game with the means to become an art piece. Different game genres and types allow for different expressions, such as What Remains of Edith Finch, a walking sim which gives a setting for a player to experience complex emotions tied to the game in a reflective manner. Sekiro, an action game which provides a setting for the player to survive failure and accomplish great achievements, thus teaching resilience to reach our goals. Darkest Dungeon, a turn-based RPG which shows the effects of stress of adventuring. The game also afflicts the player with stress through a loss of power over the characters when they snap. I watched a GDC talk recently, like literally 10 minutes ago. It was by the people behind this War of Mine and Frostpunk. They spoke about what makes a game meaningful, and if you have played either of those games, you will know that they know what they're on about. They outlined 4 factors that make a meaningful game: emotions that breed thoughts, values that are important to communicate, experiences that enhance the game's language, and close-to-life messages that are insightful and clear. Keeping that in mind, let's have a look at some of the games I mentioned earlier. The Darkest Dungeon. This is the game where the player's characters have 2 health bars, one for health and the other one for stress. The HP bar works as you would expect. The stress bar, however, starts at 0 and goes up to 200. At 100 points of stress, the character might become mad and unreliable. At 200, they will have a heart attack and die. The game was designed around the stress mechanic from the get-go. While many early access players were asking for stress and afflictions to be removed, the developers refused to do that. This level of difficulty was the creative choice and they would not let it go. Thus, their creative design came first before accessibility. Because of that, the Darkest Dungeon ended up being a big success in its market. It allows the player to feel stress and teaches the value of staying collected when everything goes to shit. The gameplay spoke the language of the game and stated a message that even when things are not going as well as they could, making the best out of the worst situation is the key. Let's apply these 4 values to other games. Edith Finch, not a challenging game from the gameplay perspective, but it might have an effect on the player's mood. You walk through an environment where you learn about the hardships of characters within the game. It evokes emotions of sadness and teaches the value of appreciation for living. The experiences in the game provide a clear message that can be applied in real life. That of appreciating people. So even though the game might be emotionally challenging, again the developers stuck to the creative design. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is a challenging game from the gameplay perspective. It often requires the player to die in order to learn how to overcome an opponent. It causes severe frustrations and sometimes anger, but it also teaches resilience. Through mastering the challenges in the game, the player receives the message to never give up when life knocks you back. Lick wounds and improve. I have seen many videos on YouTube by people who struggle with depression, who praise Soulsborne games for igniting that spark of willpower to become better in real life. Again, creative design of accessibility to reward those resilient enough to learn the game. And this is essentially why video games are art. Through Creative design allows developers to pass meaningful experiences, and difficulty is one of the tools used for it. Not ruled by the aim to be accessible for everyone, they are able to present many different lessons within the art that can be applied in real life. Games can teach love, acceptance, creativity, hard truths, and even morality. Those are the values that make those products really stand out on the market. If you take out the difficulty from those games, you will lose the aspect that makes players involved with the experience. And this would lead to emotional disassociation between the user and the game, which would lead to the game's failure in being meaningful. The whole issue which inspired this essay/rant is the fact that some people don't get the concept of creative design, which sometimes is responsible for challenging gameplay. This debate is brought back to life whenever From Software makes a new Soulsborne game. Many players and critics see the artistic value in environment design and lore, but they claim not to be able to beat the game because it is too difficult. I can understand that disappointment to a point. When I was playing those games, I wanted to discover all the pretty things they had to offer. Well, that was one of the reasons why I pushed forward. However, if the challenges from those games were removed, along with the personal rewards, I don't think those games would have been a success. This isn't because I'm a masochistic fool or an apologist for hard games, no. The truth is that the lore elements from those games were not essential to the experience itself. Let's be honest here, none of us would have known what the hell those games were on about if not for Vatividia. L-O and yet another L. Little snippets of story that are uncovered through item descriptions or level design are just a bonus to those personal rewards. This is all a part of the creative direction of those games, and clearly they've done something right there. After all, From Software has made some of the most successful games in the past 10 bloody years. This is why I don't believe that video games should be designed to be accessible for everyone. It's just fucking impossible. For example, I find it very difficult to play FIFA games unlike millions of casual gamers. I think there is something wrong between my perception and the camera angles in FIFA, and this results with me not having a clue with what's going on the screen. I don't expect EA to change football for me just because I can't see what's going on. You could very well say that this is because I simply might not have played FIFA long enough to be well adjusted to the game, to which I would be very right to say that you probably haven't played challenging games long enough to find that they are not actually that difficult once you've put some time into them. And no, I'm not saying get good. However, look at no-hit streams of Dark Souls, Bloodborne or Sekiro and tell me again that these games are impossible to beat without actually putting some time and attention into them. As a consumer, I am aware that I can't play or dislike FIFA as a product, so I will go and spend my money on other games. People need to be more aware of what they are buying before they hand over the cash, rather than being angry with the developers for not having made a game just for them. I don't know what these people expected from a company that is currently well known for making challenging games. Sure, I would like games to be accessible for everyone with a disability. Unlike uninformed consumers, they didn't choose to be at a disadvantage, but sadly I don't think that every game can be made accessible. You can try making alternative controllers for people with physical disabilities. If you had to make games that would be accessible for everyone, then what about mental health disabilities? And what about the gamers who enjoy spending 20 hours on the boss? As soon as you remove those challenges from those games to make them more accessible or inclusive, those stubborn pricks who do like hard games will be excluded from your inclusive industry. There are simply too many different people with different abilities and disabilities for a game developer to think of. Developers like, for example, From Software know their audiences pretty well. They know that following the creative design and making hard games will make a lot of people happy while also making a lot of money, and thus they should keep making games for their own audiences. Those audiences then should buy those games after reading, watching or listening to reviews to avoid disappointment. And so yeah, these were my 5 pennies on the issue of difficulty, challenge and accessibility in video games. What do you think of this issue? Let me know in the comment section down below, and leave a like if you did find this video somewhat enjoyable, and subscribe to the channel, so I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye!